Hi everyone, welcome back to Try Not to Fall Out. This is episode 3. Thank you so much for the support so far. Today we're going to be talking about the Fallout New Vegas DLCs.
Finally getting to the downloadable content in Fallout New Vegas. Probably my favorite of the entire game was this DLC because most of them, you could tell the writing, the love, and the passion. Certain stages in these DLCs, you can tell they're having such a good time with the writing.
And I think a lot of people, when they're asked which character is most memorable, they will tell you at the top of their list is Joshua Graham, who is in the first DLC we will be covering, Honest Hearts.
That's a
So,
graham cracker.
yes, Joshua Graham Cracker, yeah. We start Honest Hearts listening to a radio that talks about a caravan and they're looking for people who will join them. So we say sure. And I will never forgive this game. I wouldn't say attached, but I kind of liked the personalities we had going into the DLC that were in the caravan. I was like, okay, yeah. And it kind of sets you up to think that you're going to be with them for forever. And then all of a sudden they all get murdered except you. And I've tried so hard to make it so that they didn't, but they do.
Yeah, I don't really remember the characters going into it, but kind of hired like a mercenary to protect them or something. Is that right? Is that what the purpose was?
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if you get saved, but we meet one of the Joshua Graham's tribal men or something like that.
We get a tribal person coming up to us.
They're all like based off like Native American tribes, right?
The Dead Horses follows Chalk as part of. I found him really interesting because he's relatively young compared to a lot of the other people in his tribe. And when you're going around and you have to collect like parts for the mission, he comments on how a lot of the other dead horses won't go near certain places because they're seen as like cursed or, bad luck. And they put like handprints and stuff on the buildings to say that they're bad luck and you shouldn't go near it. Yeah, he says he's fine with doing it because he doesn't believe in it. So I found that really interesting. That's how it is a lot of the time in real life. When you get younger generations coming in, they don't really, they're not scared of the same things that the older ones were.
And like, it's all to do with like modern technology they don't like.
It fits in perfectly with Joshua, so he also doesn't use any modern medicine or anything like that. I don't know if there's any canonical reason for this. I think maybe that's where the Legion gets it.
There's 3 of them, him, Joshua Graham, and Caesar, who I think his original name was like Edward or something like that.
Yeah.
They were like Mormons. Oh, what were they called? They had, what's the name of their religion or their tribe? The Canaanites. The Canaanites.
Oh yeah, New Canaanites. Yeah.
And they were translators for the New Canaanites, and they had to go off and meet all the tribes.
Yes.
And that's how Caesar started, and Joshua Graham was probably the best translator, and then ended up becoming Caesar's legate because he had to basically speak to all these tribes and then lead them on where to go, who to kill, and stuff like that. Because he was the best translator, and that's how he basically became the legate.
When he got defeated in the first battle of Hoover Dam, Caesar, in his infinite wisdom, was like, okay, let's take this guy, let's put him in stuff, let's light him on fire and toss him into the Grand Canyon. I can't remember which racing driver it was, but he got stuck in the car, and there's like this badass clip of him walking out of the flames. And that's just what it reminded me of, like the concept of someone just being completely thought that he was dead and then just walks out of the flames. I think that's badass.
Before I learned his backstory and his lore and stuff like that, I found him a bit preachy. Like I'm not really into people pushing religions and that sort of stuff on me, or I feel like that's what he was like, first of all, when you first meet him, because he's all about God and talking about Jesus, and he believes that's why he's doing this now and stuff like that.
One thing I like about Joshua is he kind of reflects what religion means for a lot of people as a whole. In that it's somewhere you go when you are prosecuted or you're a minority or you feel as though there's no one to lean on or you've been left with nothing. Religion is a comfort. It always has been. It's one of the reasons why we created it in the first place. He is a prime example of that. He had all of these things he believed in the Legion, and to have lost it all is obviously a very traumatic thing to have happened to him. He's also revealed he's always in pain.
Yeah.
His burns have never truly healed, and obviously he doesn't take stim packs and stuff, so he will always be in pain.
I think he says in it that he can't use chems, he can't use drugs or something like that. Not for the fact he's immune to it, he says. But one of his favorite quotes that he says that I liked was, "I have been baptized in once in water and then once in fire." Okay, that's pretty badass. Even though, like, I just
He is very badass, and it is mentioned here he was forced to kind of reflect on himself. and to face who he had become. Because up until when he got, brutalized and got thrown into the fire, he'd slowly been realizing how badly things had been going.
Yeah.
So, like, how brutal the Legion had become and how many conquests they were doing and the reconditioning of tribals. He started to realize up until that point that the Legion wasn't what he thought it would
Hmm.
be. But one thing that stood out to me was the fact that he doesn't blame Caesar. Like, when you ask him about it, he still doesn't blame Caesar for what happened to him. He blames himself. He's now working to get
Well, the
forgiveness.
thing is, another quote he says that I really loved, and it kind of means to this. And he also talks about the new leg of it. He says, "Love the sinner, hate the sin." That's a pretty nice quote, man. Like that's where he stands, where he's like, I don't hate people, but
Mm.
I hate their sins. Like I hate what they do. The bad things they do are bad.
See, that's the
Yeah,
thing. Like, even if you don't like religion, he pulls you in
yeah,
regardless. Because he is a badass at the end of the day. Like, meeting him for the first time, just cleaning
yeah,
guns. and then when you're asking him stuff and he goes, but we can't expect God to do all the work.
yeah.
I remember when he said that. It's like, we can't expect God to do all the work. And then he's like, he finishes like cleaning a gun. I'm like, what is this guy? He's so interesting. Like,
You know
seriously.
who he reminds me of, and
Hmm.
for people that play video games or like Bethesda games, this might shine some more light on him of how I see him. Partonex. That Partonex in Skyrim was like like a general in Alduin's army, and he was really bad on people, like slaves, all this that sort of stuff too. And he ends up realizing that's bad, don't do that. And same with Joshua Graham. No, Joshua Graham, in fairness, he had to lose a war, get set on fire, thrown off into the Grand Canyon. Took him 3 months to get to the Canaanites, and then they took him in open arms and healed him up. So
Yeah.
it took a lot for him to change to realize of what happened. And I know he kind of says he was seeing it, changes as he was going, but it did take a lot, like, for him to finally open his eyes to realize the Legion's bad, like, and
One thing I will say that differs is I think I feel as though he wasn't always bad. I feel like it's just this steady slope
yeah,
towards the Legion that caused him to then lose it. Whereas Parthenax, dragons, their personalities are evil. That's the nature of their existence. So I feel as though, yeah, there is a similarity though, the fact that he's had all this happen to him and he still chooses to be good. He still chooses to go against the things he was
yeah,
taught.
because I think what the way it happened for him was it was over like a long period of years. So like he started off with following Caesar, and then they start doing their things, and maybe they did one little small thing, bad thing, and eventually what's another small bad thing, and what's another one, and what's another one, and eventually you're so deep in it, like you know what I mean? You're just used to it and conditioned to it, and I feel like that's what kind of happened to him. And then it took him to get set on fire and thrown off a cliff to realize maybe I should have been doing all that all this time, you know?
Yeah, I did mention it in my husband's video. I mentioned Joshua
Mm,
briefly. One of my favorite things is the fact that he refuses to carry anything for you. When he's your companion, there's a short period in the DLC where he becomes your
yeah,
companion. He refuses to talk to you. So if you try and talk to him, he just ignores you. And then if you try and get him to open stuff or wait, he refuses to do that as well, which I find hilarious. He's like, I'm not carrying shit for you. We're going to do something. I'm not sitting and doing idle chatter. He's a man who just wants to get shit done, you know? He's not there to just sit and talk about stuff. However, there is a point where you're able to talk to him, and that's when he mentions stuff like the
yeah,
burns. Yeah, it's only if you've got a speech check of above 70 that you're able to ask him about stuff like that. And yeah, he's immune to chems, and every day he has to remove the bandages to put on fresh ones. And he says that the pain he feels when removing the bandages is as bad as being set on fire
yeah.
again. And when you ask him why he does it then, he says it's better to be clean than comfortable. So I really like that as well. And apparently if you throw grenades at him, he just says not to throw grenades.
He's like you could tell he used to be evil and stuff like that, and he's like a neutral good guy now. He's a bit over the top for the religion side of thing for me. That's kind of turns me off him a bit, you know.
And
Yeah,
that's fair, you're allowed
that
to feel that way.
he's a little pushy on it sometimes. I feel like, and then he pulls it back, saying he's not trying to be pushy, and I'm just like, okay, what is it? Yeah, I just don't like that whole side of it. But
I personally like that part.
yeah,
That's actually what drew me to him because I feel as though religion isn't really, at least not modern religion or religion we're familiar with. I don't feel like it's seen that much in video games. I follow Buddhism and I've had friends who, are Christian or Muslim, and I know what it's like to be someone who you turn to that when you're in difficult times. So I found that really interesting, but he's kind of like the
yeah.
extreme version of
No,
that,
I
you know?
100% respect that.
And the fact that he's alive because of that, I think that's why when he talks about it, even if I don't necessarily believe in the same things as him, because he kind of sees it all as like his purpose now is gaining forgiveness, which is interesting.
Like he said, he could never, for what they did, is like so much that he doesn't think he could ever repay it, but he has to try to do it in some way. What is why he's doing what he's doing now, which I don't really remember. Yeah, he's fighting against the and the other tribal, the White Legs, which are being run by the Caesar's Legion to assassinate him. Really, he's not a part of them though. He's just there to help. I think is it that he's like kind of just like
He kind of becomes their leader and they sort of idolize him
yeah.
almost, even though he himself probably wouldn't say that he's actually part of the
Mm,
tribe because he doesn't have the same beliefs as
yeah.
they do. He still kind of sees himself as the protector of them.
Because was he sent there as like aides to them though? I just don't remember how he got there. Like because they're not the new Canaanites. Like was he sent to this tribe to aid them in the war or in the fight, or was he just there and then the war started? That's I don't remember off the top of my head for that. That's the one part that, like, that this whole DLC to me, I kind of it was a bit fetch questy, go to these little huts, get these kind of things and stuff like that. The parts I did enjoy was the conversations with what's his name?
Joshua?
Joshua. They're the only parts I kind of enjoyed. The rest I just felt like you go kill 10 Yagoi, go collect this. There was like little bits and pieces like that were questings, and that was just a little fetch questy and things I didn't really enjoy. But what made it for me was Joshua Graham, and then we got a few new guns and weapons in the whole DLC, which I did enjoy.
So I feel like the followers of the apocalypse asked for his assistance when they went to Grand Canyon, providing education to local tribes. So I'm assuming that's where they came into contact.
So this is when that's how he got in contact with him, and that's how the
Yeah,
Legion
but
started.
he
As he was yeah.
knew the people, the people he's with now, he knew them from before. So I'm trying to link that together. That's another thing. There's so much going on, right? There's just so much going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't say exactly. It says Graham
So what?
survived the descent when he was thrown into the thing and burned,
Yeah.
crawled his way out of
Yeah.
it, started his journey over 3 months to reach his family tribe in New Canaan, where he was welcome again like the prodigal son
New
returned home.
Canaanites. Oh, I remember now. The new Canaanites are destroyed. That's what it is. The Legion
So
destroyed them.
he's by 2281, Graham's past finally
Yeah.
caught up with him. The White Legs, whipped into a frenzy and
Yeah.
equipped by Ulysses, attacked New Canaan while Joshua
Yeah.
was
That's what
away.
it is.
Integrate themselves with the Legion by destroying Graham's family tribe and Graham along with
That's
them.
what it is. Exactly.
Graham assumed the position of acting war chief among the dead horses alongside Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why.
Yeah.
The whole premise of the DLC is that Daniel would have Graham fight a more peaceful way. Graham wants to bring God's justice down and,
Yeah.
kill them. The impulse to exact vengeance on those who butchered his people, killing all those who could not run away fast enough, the elderly, the ill, children, and even those who stopped the help, burns within him along with his guilt for his past sins. He finds it only fitting that he spill the blood of his enemies in Zion, a natural temple and monument to the glory of his God. But there is the choice at the end that I always go with, because I never go with Daniel, because I don't like Daniel. I don't think anyone likes Daniel. How are you going to put this guy called Daniel,
What's wrong with Daniel,
okay,
man?
with a stupid. No, just come on. How are you going to put Daniel with a stupid hat on? How are you going to put him up against the Joshua Graham? Like, I don't think they really thought about that because it's meant to be a choice. But I think for 9 out of 10 people, it's not a choice. You're going to go with Joshua because he's more interesting. But I always go with Joshua. And then when it comes to the final bit where he goes to kill the leader of the White Legs, you can, if you got high enough charisma, you can talk him out of it. He thanks you later for it. I think he got so caught up in the heat of wanting vengeance.
I think I took the vengeance. I can't remember how I completed the DLC. I think I just put all the White Legs.
I was like, this isn't you, bro.
This DLC was enjoyable in the conversations and learning about the new characters and the tribes, but when I was actually doing the quests in it, I just felt like there was a lot of running around.
I'm just reading this, and it says the burned man does not hold any ill will towards any allies to the NCR. To him, the NCR is still redeemable in his eyes, stating that the greed of man is what led to the Great War. He also has a dim opinion of Mr. House, seeing him as another Caesar, a man who rallied together his own set of tribes, using his own methods to assume domination over
Smart
others.
man.
So it's kind of similar to your opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Because Mr. House is just another Caesar, just with more money.
I mean, I don't agree with that, but
Yeah, just because he just makes it look fancy. That's all.
also, you can't pickpocket him unless he's asleep.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
Mm.
Coming back to when we were talking about how he's wanting forgiveness and stuff, it's kind of ironic because out of every single character in Fallout New Vegas, he's the only one marked with good karma.
But he's like
Everyone else has neutral.
Yeah, I think he realistically, like, wouldn't he not be closer to like a neutrally kind of style because he's still willing to kill, and unless you're there, he was gonna wipe out the white legs. Like you have to be there. Like,
It's kind of the conversation. Do you think that if you get rid of people who are hurting others, it's the right thing to do? It's that conversation. I think ultimately it makes sense that Joshua has good karma because I think he's the only character other than the courier that is actively helping people without expecting anything in
but I
return.
don't think getting rid of people just fixes everything. Like,
Well, no, he's not wanting to fix everything.
teaching the people why they shouldn't be doing the wrong things is the right way of doing things.
Yeah, but what if they don't listen to reason?
Well, that has to be seen. It has to be proven that they can't at least give them the opportunity.
I think it kind of
Yeah,
was.
you have to give them the opportunity to like Joshua Graham. Like, he was an evil person, but he had to redeem himself and show that he redeemed himself, and that's his thing. That's the whole thing about the DLC. I found is it's about redemption and showing that people can change.
Okay, let's talk about things we don't like. I don't like, even though this is really realistic to the real world, they kind of confuse the natives. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but when you're playing the DLC, there's like, you can have a conversation with Daniel, and you say to him, like, oh, by the way, they think that God, as you see him, is actually like numerous deities and everything. And then he gets kind of mad and he's like, oh no, like they're not
Yeah,
reading the scripture properly, which I guess is kind of the purpose of missionaries is to spread the word of God, right? But I guess they're not doing it right,
yeah.
or they're trying to get to believe what they believe, but they've already got such rich beliefs. So I think that was something that kind of conflicted me.
Was he actually doing that though? Was he trying to teach them about God, or was he trying to just?
Yeah.
Because initially he was just a translator, I think, just to build up relations with these tribes, as far as I was aware. But I didn't know he was trying to push
And
the
then
religion.
Daniel was kind of
Yeah,
frustrated when you spoke to him
yeah,
because they weren't kind of the way that they were reading the Bible, they were getting something different from it than he did, which is kind of how religion works. But he was mad
yeah.
about it. So
But that's the point in it, right?
I also don't like the fact that like after the DLC, he just goes back
Yeah.
to his tribe and then you can't find him again
Hmm.
if you try and find him. So I felt very like final. Like what if I want to visit him, you know? What if I want to stop in for a cup
I
of
think
tea?
because I did this, I don't know how early on I did it in my playthrough, but I completely forgot about it. Like, I forget, like, until we actually bring it up, and someone mentions him. Oh yeah, the guy with the bandages. Like, that's how it is in my head, because that DLC, I felt like I was just kind of grinding it out, just getting it done because it was really grindy, I found.
Yeah, for me, the highlight of the DLC wasn't the story. It was just this one character that I found very interesting and the way he tied in with everything else. And of course, the way that,
Yeah,
which we will talk about later, the way Ulysses ties
yeah,
in with the tribes as well. But other than that, I found it very lackluster as a DLC. Interesting, but for the most part, especially in terms of gameplay,
yeah.
kind of boring. And I think that can take away from the fact they've got this amazing, well written character in here. You know, me and Joshua Graham taking you on the wasteland, how cool would that be? Missed opportunity. I know he probably wouldn't like me, but
I
like,
do like that the fact that they did go kind of all in with the religion side of things, where I feel like a lot of games are afraid to say God or Jesus or whatever. They skirt around that.
there's a lot of people, because as I said when we first started, that is one thing I really liked about it because it's so rare to play a game and have them properly have someone who's very religious and talk about it
Yeah.
frequently. And I really liked that because, yeah, as you said, a lot of people are skirting around it or not really brave enough, you
I
know?
like, because I know people in life that are like that. I don't like when they do it to me in real life, but I like that there's a character like this in the game. It adds real life to the game. It adds life to it.
Yeah, because that's who he is. And, you know, as much as we might disagree with the beliefs and everything, at the end of the day, it's his religion that saved him, basically.
100%.
Because he had this idea in his mind that he needed to be forgiven and that God was with him. We hear about that with Harriet, for example, Harriet Tubman. Her huge thing when she was trying to free the slaves was that God was with her. And then when they asked her why she didn't drown in the water when she was trying to get through to save the slaves, she said, because God won't let me drown. And obviously, from an atheist perspective or from the perspective of someone just looking at it completely scientifically, obviously it's not God that's
Yeah.
pushing her up. But she truly believed that. And it's the same with Joan of Arc. And then they were like, how do you do it? And she says, because God wants me to. And you know, these are real people that existed. And he's kind of a representation of that. Someone who defied the odds, but when you ask him how he did it, he will turn to God. And you know, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that depiction. You know, it felt very real because would it be easier to have a character that isn't religious? Sure, but they didn't go for the easy route. He's very memorable for me because of that.
Yeah.
Daniel's Daniel. I don't really
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, just the
Daniel was like in the corner, I guess.
just the tribal aspect of it, like I do really respect that end too. If you're especially if you're an old school Fallout 1 and 2 player,
Yeah.
you'll get that because they play big on the tribes in the original Fallout games. And it's nice to from the kind of pull on that because you don't really see any of that in Fallout 3 or 4. Like I don't know like how respectful it is to Native Americans or any of that, but
Probably
I
not
do
quite
like
that
that
much.
they'll no, it's interesting that the fact that they're still bringing that in from the original games, and that's why I do respect when you still keep your core, from your original games. Because I know it wasn't Bethesda made, it was Obsidian that basically made it. I do respect it. I do like that. I do like the
Should
callback.
we move on to the next DLC?
Oh yeah,
The favorite of both of us. This is Old World Blues, which is literally you get abducted and these giant eyeball machines experiment on you. But turns out they were actually pre-war scientists that replaced their old bodies with machines. And we learn that they actually removed and then lost our brain. So they took out our brain, but then they were like, huh, turns out we don't have it.
but
And then we find out that Dr. Morbius has it. And the people, the big MT, so the think tank, they are saying to us, oh, by the way, Dr. Morbius is evil and you have to go and get your brain. Turns out Dr. Morbius is not evil, and the reason he took your brain, he was trying to keep them from experimenting on the entire wasteland. So the think tank wanted to do their little lobotomies on everyone. Dr. Morbius is the one that's trying to ruin their memories and confuse them so that they won't do that. And eventually we get our brain back if we choose to have it back. And you can choose whether you want to stay in the big MT or if you want to kill them, which is the think tank. Already, it's maybe the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. Like the fact that it's like, oh, by the way, you got a lobotomy and these giant eyeball machines are like, hey, can you go get your brain for us that we took out? And then there's a giant robot scorpion and there's other people that have had lobotomies running around and it's like, what is going on?
actually, you wake up like George said. You'll wake up with no brain. They also take your heart and your spine. So you, you know that too. They replaced them with mechanical ones. Yeah, they only lost the brain. Which is the first conversation that you have when as soon as you wake up is about 40 to 50 minutes long of dialogue, and it's probably the funniest. Like I'm telling you guys, you'll be if you haven't done it, do it because probably my favorite of the DLCs. And this like first time you meet these robot guys just goes on, and the conversations are hilarious. They can't make heads or tails of what fingers are anymore. They're just like, why is his lips slapping together and stuff? The things they say, like hilarious. I love it.
If you decide to like upgrade the room that they give you, like all of the items can start
Yeah, the
talking.
toaster was great.
I think it's the sink that starts flirting with you, and then the lights also start flirting with you, and then
Yeah.
and then they're like they start fighting over it, and they're like, "Do you like me or her?" And it's like, what is going on? It's so funny.
Toaster wants to take over the world.
Yeah, like
It's
there's so much
hilariously
going on.
evil. Yeah, I love it. And you can upgrade all these guys, and you get really cool weaponry upgrades. So much to do in this place. It is a bit of a like I played on really hard difficulty on survival mode, so I was struggling a bit at this part. Because when it comes to food and health packs and stuff like that, so prep before going in because you can bring stuff in. Just FYI, if anyone's going to do it for the very first time, get plenty of stim packs and get ready for it because it is kind of tough. You find a lot of robot bad guys and stuff like that. But it is very interesting. It just keeps changing, going on.
One thing I really like about it, like I really like how even though it's very humorous and funny, the undertones are really very dark. Like for example, the fact that you've got the concentration camp,
Yeah.
the little Yangtze, I don't know how to say it, where before the Great War, they would round up Chinese and Chinese American citizens during the war. Instead of simply being imprisoned indefinitely, they were used as subjects for the think tank. It's like a human farm. It's just really fucked up, and you can visit it in the game when you're playing. And if you go there, you can find them all as ghouls, but they've still got bomb collars on their necks. Really messed
It
up.
is.
There's like Night Stalker test areas and stuff like that. And it's very uneasy. It's very weird. There's a lot of like vibes underneath all of the funny stuff
Hmm.
that's kind of not funny.
No, the guys are really evil. Like they're kind of gone a bit wacky lately because of the solution that their brains are contained in is degrading their brains. Like one is called Zero, but they call him O. He keeps getting upset. He's like, "My name is not O," and And then you teach him that his name is actually Zero and it has a line through it, and he's like, he respects you for it and stuff like because you can talk them down. You can at the end you can either like George said you can kill them or you can just look different outcomes and different ways of doing everything. It's really great DLC. I think it's a couple of hours long. You can get quite a bit out of it. Like the other DLCs, there's a bit of fetch quetchiness to it, but that's part and parcel when it comes to a Bethesda
I
game.
think they keep it
Yeah,
fun
I
though.
enjoyed this a lot more because each and every location you go to is slightly different. There's different things happening, different enemies. Robot scorpions, though,
Yep.
pain in the arse. Morbius is obsessed with scorpions for some reason. Really cool and interesting loot. Yeah, you get. I remember getting this kind of stealth armor stuff, and you also get this kind of a thing around your head. I remember it was like a blue light thing, and that regenerates your health. That came in clutch for me playing on the hardest difficulty and on a survival mode. Like I needed it, just draining on stim packs constantly on it. Like because they remove your brain and they remove your spine and heart, you get like these extra buffs and stuff like that because if you have a robot spine you don't get as crippled as much and stuff like that. I can't remember what the heart does and the brain does something again. I think your head is immune to being crippled at all or something like that, and I absolutely loved that because I was getting sick of getting blurry vision all the time for getting shot in the head.
One of my favorite things is the amount of references in this DLC. So obviously, Mobius was inspired by Dr. Edward Morbius and to the Mobius strip. And on top of that, he says a bunch of sort of related phrases. So if the player takes the Wild Wasteland trait, he mentions keeping several Plan 9s in place, which is a reference to the Plan 9 from outer space. And he also references The Wizard of Oz. His farewell dialogue, he says, "Please mind the equations on the floor," as a nod to the Greek scientist Archimedes, who was killed by a Roman legionary during the Second Punic War, because he angrily shouted to the legionary, who unintentionally stepped over his mathematical writings on the ground, "Do not disturb my circles." So he's also a reference to that. And then if asked about a non-violent way to deal with a think tank, Morbius says something like, "A wise man once said that the eyes do more than see." So obviously a reference to the fact that they're all big eyeballs, but also to the short story by Isaac Asimov. So eyes do more than see. So obviously you feel from the eyes, you see everything from the eyes, but there's more to it than that. So I like all of the little references he does. And also the fact that he confuses words, even though he's probably the most sane out of all of the think tank, which is saying
They're all
something.
insane. They're actually crazy. Yeah.
So like instead of reason, he'll say raisin. And instead of desert, he'll say dessert. He struggles between like words and names and stuff. And he also like, he'll mean to say custard, but he'll say mustard. And he also says some really funny shit. I wrote down a few quotes that I liked. "Well, there's many things they have forgotten. Friendship, the thrill of discovery, love, masturbation, the usual."
Yeah.
Like he's hilarious. Like it's so good. So every time he spoke, it was like, there's some characters where you want to skip the dialogue or you're just like, okay, come on, move on. But whenever Mobius was talking, I was like, this is hilarious. I need to hear what he's going to say
I don't
next.
remember ever having that feeling through that whole DLC, as in skip the dialogue. I just wanted to hear it all.
Because it was so funny. You
Yeah.
didn't know what you were going to get
It was
next.
so like it was the Fallout goofiness done perfectly, I think. Because like you said last time, there's a balance.
Oh yeah,
You're afraid they're going to tip that balance, but this one was just in the right location, done right, and
they did it
there's a reason why
perfect.
they're goofy, and it's explained. And you can have goofy characters, but explain why they're goofy and how they got to that state.
They've been changed. They've been
Yeah.
altered and stuff.
It's
Yeah.
been proven, and because you can talk to your own brain in this, and one of the reasons you can use to tell your brain, because it's your brain, it's weird that you're talking to your own brain. You still have two different, you can have a separate conversation with your own brain.
Yeah, and then you need to talk your
Yeah,
brain into getting back into your head. Like that was so funny to me. Like you had to do like
yeah.
charisma checks or something. And I was like, why? It's my brain.
But one of the reasonings is like you can talk them out. Your brain's going to end up like your brains, and your brain has a male voice for some reason. This FYI, and I think
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I think my brain would have a male
it's
voice.
explained in a funny way. If I remember, I can't remember how.
Knowing all the things I've done. So yeah, this for me was probably the most memorable DLC. It was like the complete opposite of the previous one we spoke about because you were
Yeah,
constantly like, what's going on? This is
yeah.
exciting. This is fun. This is scary. Like I felt everything playing this DLC because there were some moments that were genuinely frightening. Like,
You start off like in a bed, you waking up in a like this bedroom, and you're in this high tower overlooking everything. You get this kind of prompt, and it says that you have scars on your head, scars around your heart, scars down the whole back of your spine, and you have to go figure out like what the frick happened. Like the characters and the enemies, and the fact that you don't know who's good or bad straight away. Everyone just seems crazy, so you don't know who to believe for a good while as you continue your journey throughout. It's a 10 out of 10 freaking DLC for me, I think.
This one for sure is my favorite, I would say. And I think anyone who's not played it, please play it. Like the thing is as well, it's ridiculously cheap. Like I think on Xbox it's like no more than like £5. On Steam, it's about the same, like maybe even cheaper, I think, on Steam.
Yeah. But like when I think back to it, anytime I think about New Vegas, that's what I think about is that DLC. That's my fondest memory about the whole game. Yeah, it's great. I love it. And I can't wait to one of these days go back and play it again.
The next DLC we're going to be talking about is Dead Money. Let me out of here, please. Let me out! Help! Help me!
All right.
Help!
Do you want me to explain this one, or do you want to go off and tell us how you feel and what you?
You can explain it first if you feel like you're
All right.
capable.
So from what I remember on this one, it's a love or hate one, I think, for a lot of people. To me, I didn't really love it as a DLC, but the story basically is I think you get like gassed or get knocked out at the start. You go into this underground Brotherhood of Steel bunker thing, and then you end up waking up with a collar around your neck. All your equipment's gone. If you go to certain areas, there's gas that kills you. If you go to the wrong location, your collar will beep and your head will explode off your head and you'll die straight away. It's just a treacherous place. Totally enemies that are super spongy, super hard. And I just remember it being a nightmare in that sense. But the basic story is this elder from the Brotherhood of Steel, Elijah. He basically, there's a vault underground in it full of riches and stuff like that and equipment. And he wants to basically control the gas and all the holograms and the monsters and stuff like that to basically, once again, it's this whole scorch earth. So they lost the Helios 1, so he was upset about that. They all thought he died, but he went off to this place and he was going to weaponize all the stuff and use all the money from Sierra Madre Casino to basically cleanse scorch earth Las Vegas. I hate this idea and mindset that these bad guys go in. It just winds me up because it's been done over and over. I think just the bombs dropping is proof that it doesn't work. This scorched aspect of warfare. So I didn't like that about the bad guy. I hate that mindset. It seems to come over and over again in these games. When you get to as you go through this, you'll meet a bunch of characters. You meet Dog God, Super Mutant slash, no, he's Nikekin, is he? Yeah, he's Nikekin kind of Super Mutant guy, and he has split personalities. God is really smart, and then Dog is the real dumb. These kind of shadowy men. How do you describe them? Like they're like the bad guys, like, and they're really
The ones in hazmat suits, they're called ghost
yeah.
people,
Yeah.
but they're also called locals or inhabitants, and they're hostile mutated creatures in the Sierra Madre.
Are they made from the gas, or is that what changes them?
So the reason they are the way they are is because of the mist.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was.
So it's the cloud.
Yeah.
The cloud is what turned them into what
There's
they are.
also hollow people. There's the people that are like VR, like kind of like this kind of hologram people, and yeah, they attack you too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're a nightmare too. But the bad guys are so like take all your equipment, like literally strip you to down to nothing again. Oh my god! Like I just remember
Yeah.
constantly getting killed, constantly stepping on mines, getting my legs crippled. It was. And I said this to you, Georgia, before. This
Yeah.
game, this DLC gave me PTSD because of the beep 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 mines. Like it just drove me insane.
The reason it's called dead money is obviously it's referred to the poker term, which is that all the money in the pot is dead money because it goes to the winner and only the winner. So even if you put it in, there's a good chance you're not going to get it back. So it's like a tournament with unskilled players. You would call that dead money. A lot of dead money. So it's kind of also a reference to how Father Elijah treats the players, characters, and the other NPCs. Because we exist only to get him the riches of the Sierra Madre. To him, we are all dead money. So it's kind of, it forces you, no matter how powerful you are as a courier, it forces you to become dead money, which I thought was really interesting. Really fucking annoying though. This DLC for me was like, fuck you, Georgia. Hey, Georgia, you specifically. Ugh, it was so annoying. And the whole DLC is based on a film as well. It's a 1948 film called The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, for anyone who doesn't know. And it's basically two people who have really bad luck, but they meet a prospector and then they strike it rich after like finding gold in like remote mountains. But the biggest theme of the movie is they don't trust each other, which is basically the theme of the DLC. Because you don't know who to trust. But at the end, you're all dead money. You know, you're not the main character. It's a very humbling DLC. That's how I describe it. You know, you're forced to kind of be like, hey, by the way, you're not the main character. So you get put into the same shoes as everyone else. The people you are usually saving,
Yeah.
you're also one of them now.
The think tank one, I don't know what the theme of that was. I don't know, Insanity or something. But the one before that was we had Revenge, Redemption. This one I feel like was greed. You meet all the characters and you build your team together. They talk about they had other people like before us that tried to do the heist, try to get into the vault. And each of them, as they were getting closer, end up killing each other. So Elijah kind of kept getting annoyed at that because every time they got close to getting it, they'd end up killing each other because they got too greedy. So how he got over that was if one of them die, we all die. So that forces the team to work together. So when we meet Dean Domino, is that his name? The ghoul singer guy. He's kind of cool. And then you meet Christine, I think, and she's a Brotherhood of Steel
Yeah.
scribe or like some sort of assassin or something like that. Can't talk for a good part of it because she got her vocal cords cut or something. If your intelligence isn't high enough, or your speech, or if your medical or whatever isn't high enough, you can't really learn anything about her if you don't have those skills high enough because you have to be able to read what she's saying, like lip reading. Oh, your perception, that's what it is. Your perception has to be high enough, or your medical or intelligence. And if they're not high enough, you're going to miss out on what that character's lore, basically, which I thought was interesting. There's cool little interesting things about this DLC. It's just getting through it is a slog. I mean, like, it's a bit of a pain. It's highly difficult. It's very linear. It is a bit fetch questy again, which is fine. Look, that's okay. The difficulty, even for me, and I like difficult things, I struggled with this bit for a while. I just felt like I was so well equipped for everything else I would hit. The fact that they took all my stuff and they didn't give you an option to give it back until you completed the entire DLC, that's what kind of hurt me. Okay, they take all your stuff, but later, like probably halfway through the DLC or something, you find your box of your stuff or something, you know? That's what annoyed me about it. You never got to that stage. You just had to use what was there. But then, speaking about the topic of the actual DLC, is when you get to the vault, get in there, you can join Elijah. You know, the game will end there, but basically he will weaponize the Sahara Madre. And then, even if you don't touch a piece of gold, he will just initially say you're robbing him and try to kill you. He just gets covered in greed. And then there's another way you can do it is where you can take all the stuff, sneak out, and lock him in the vault underground, which I think is really cool. Well, you can kill him too. And once you get outside, you can listen to your Pip-Boy and you can hear him talking down in the vault, basically saying, I know you're listening, and all the sort of stuff. It's really that part of the part I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a good DLC, I'm not gonna lie. But for my taste, it was far too hard. Like, even though the story was so complex and the characters were so interesting, it was just so annoying to play. That's why I'm letting Elder talk more, because even though I liked the concept and I thought the story was super interesting that was tied to it, it was too annoying. I'm sorry, those creepy ghost men and the stupid toxic clouds and the mines everywhere and the bomb collars and the radios. Like, bro, as I've said before on this podcast, I struggle enough in real life. I don't need to struggle also in my own time when I'm playing games. Like, I play games to have fun, not suffer. So, just too much. Also, gambling is bad, guys. Don't gamble.
But so you know, you can walk out of that vault with a lot of money.
I can just use a cheat and get a lot of money.
We don't all like to cheat, Georgia. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why you're in the Sierra Madre and I'm not.
This DLC is very low on my list. I don't think it's the worst DLC in my opinion. It's very low down there. I thought Dog God was pretty interesting. The fact that he's flipping back and forth between two different characters. I kind of spoke about Christine already a bit. Apparently, I don't think it's ever confirmed, but apparently she is Veronica's ex-girlfriend and they couldn't be together because Brotherhood of Steel doesn't allow that.
It's another reason
Yeah.
why the Brotherhood of Steel suck. All my homies hate the Brotherhood of Steel.
But the way the Brotherhood of Steel works, from what I learned, is that they want children of the couples in the to be their next soldiers, and if you can't procreate, they don't want you, and that's it. I'm done with them, man. It has to stop on Brotherhood of Steel in everything. That's all I want to say. And then Dean Domino, he's an interesting character. He's a ghoul that was actually a singer in the casino, but he's also a thief. So he's been trying to steal the gold out of that vault for over 200 years, which is kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I have to say about that DLC.
Let's talk about the final DLC, the Lonesome Road. So, this is basically where the courier's story is meant to kind of come to its final conclusion. Two people who work for the mail force fighting. Who do you think's going to win in the fight? This postie or that postie? The posties are fighting. They're squabbling. You find out, basically, that there's this guy who's been leaving graffiti everywhere to try and make you follow it. And he also left Eddie, the robot, he also left that there on purpose so that you would take it with you. This guy who has been watching you forever, he's a stalker, he's obsessed with you. And the reason he is obsessed with you is because you were both mail service, you were basically given this package. Courier, we do our job, we go to the Hopeville place, which is where Ulysses lived, and we deliver the package. and then we go on our way. So for us, it was just a normal quest. You know, it was nothing for us. It was our job. Turns out the package had something that triggered a giant missile that destroyed his home. Because of us, not on purpose, obviously, but inadvertently, because we were there, we destroyed the place. He blames us for that. Of course he does. However,
Shoot the messenger, huh? You know what I mean?
then makes a community in the remains of it, and that then becomes a community. Then the nukes again, I'm pretty sure.
Ulysses then gets picked up by the Legion, and he ends up getting recruited, and he kind of bops around a bit too.
So Ulysses had faith in the community he found in Hopeville, because he
Yeah,
lost his tribal family at Dry Wells. He also lost his faith
yeah,
in Caesar's Legion after training the Whitelegs. And the courier, without knowing, helped build the community that he
yeah.
loved, but they also accidentally destroyed it too, using the nukes. So Ulysses is essentially trying to do the
Yeah.
same thing to us that we did to him without knowing. But the difference in that, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that we didn't know and he does. He
The
does.
whole reason the Legion is in New Vegas is because of him too. Because he found Hoover Dam. He went back to Caesar, told Caesar about it, and then Caesar came in to conquer New Vegas over Hoover Dam to capture it. And because of that, then he regrets it. Then the whole time, like if you have listen to conversations of Ulysses, and he's always like mentioning that you can hear in his voice, kind of he regrets telling Caesar ever about Hoover Dam because he has so much blood on his hands
Oh
right
yeah.
now. But he blames the courier on all of it.
He's a very flawed man.
Yeah.
He's a man that I think time and time again tried to find community once his original community was lost. He was faced with the reality that nothing was the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the reason things are not the way they used to be, to him, it's because of us. And because of that, he has nowhere to put this grief and this misunderstanding. He has nowhere to put the reason why this happened other than on us. And he is a very intelligent man. He's not mentally stable in the slightest. He is very smart. You know, again, it's a classic thing we're seeing, especially in the Legion. You know, men who are very intelligent but have no clue. And that's how I would sum up this guy. And he's just lost everything, basically. And he thinks
Yeah.
that by making you go through the same thing as him, that somehow it'll be better, or that he'll at least feel he's managed to avenge the people he lost and he's managed to make things equal. That when you actually meet him, if you've got high enough speech, you're able to talk him out of destroying the place that he thinks you care about. And the reason why is one of the arguments is the fact that we were completely unaware from the get-go. The courier has just time and time again been used as a pawn in other people's games. Whether it be by the NCR, whether it be by House, whether it be by the Legion, we have always just been that. We've just been a pawn. At the end of the day, as someone said, mail carriers aren't supposed to question what they carry. So the courier was just doing their job, and the things that resulted in that were not the courier's fault. And Ulysses, once you actually talk to him and explain the fact that, hey, I've been given a bad card over and over again. I got given this thing that apparently destroyed where you lived, and then I got shot in the head, and you know, things have just gotten worse and worse, and I don't know what I did wrong. And then he goes, oh wait, yeah, you don't. I think that's when he realizes, because I think surely deep down he realizes that you're not sure, but I think he's just so blinded by grief, to be honest. Too much time on his hands. He's got too much fucking time. Like, bro, I'm gonna be real with you. Men will do anything but go to therapy. But I'm sorry, you could have done a Joshua Graham. You could have found God. You could have helped a local tribe. Anything except what you did.
But he always seems to just take the wrong path, in my opinion. Like he, first of all, he joins Legion. He ends up getting the Legion to come to Vegas and conquer and start a whole war between the NCR and them. Then he constantly talks about how he hates the Legion, but he still respects the Legion as like if you're a Legionnaire, he calls you like a brother or you know sister or whatever. Like, and then he gets the Whitelegs. He gets them to annihilate the Canaanites and then try to kill Joshua Graham, but then leaves them because they disrespect his, because his whole original tribe, their symbolism was their hair, the braids. I can't remember what they were called. There's something, the hair nuts or something, or hair something they were called.
Yeah, the
His
twisted
original tribe was
hairs.
called,
Yeah.
and it's part of religion was their hair, the twisted hairs. That's it. And they started copying his hairstyle, and he found it really disrespectful to his religion, and then ended up getting really annoyed with them. He ended up leaving them basically, and was fed up with them. So dropped that. The amount of death, destruction he has brought, and the solution then is he doesn't believe in the Legion. Went to the think tank to talk to the old, the old world people, what they believe in and their beliefs, and if you can get any kind of find any community there or way to structure or build it, because he's looking for a community to build the new world on, and he just found out they were all crazy because their their brains are so degraded. Then he went to he went to Serra Madre. He refused to go over there because he knew he was captured or whatever. So he found out Elijah was crazy. And then his last thing was to nuke everyone. He wants to nuke the NCR. He wants to nuke
Yeah.
everybody,
Again, yeah.
Legion and all, and kill everybody, kids and all, and do the whole scorch earth thing again. Just like, can we just drop this? Like, come on, it doesn't work.
And he has little to no respect for people who don't really care or blindly obey things. So literally what a mailman is. But he also, I think he gets lost in the sauce himself. I think he saw the courier as like a symbol of hope.
Yeah.
When the courier delivers the codes and the nukes fall, he then sees them as like the opposite of that. So he kind of thought of the courier as almost an idol, and then all of a sudden they went from that to an enemy. And then on top of that, he's a huge hypocrite because everything he holds personal hatred for, he's guilty of it. So all of the DLC plots,
Yeah,
altogether, they're because of him. He guided Elijah to the Madre. He also broke the think tank out of the
exactly.
loop they were stuck in. He led the White Legs to Saknukanen and then turned them from the scavengers that they used to be into an army, basically. He's like, literally, he's a Fallout protagonist just as the courier is, but he walked a different way. And yeah, he's like, oh, you fucked everything up. And it's like, well, actually, but the difference is you did it on purpose.
Yeah, like maybe the NCR should be blamed because they're the ones that sent us with the package, right?
He's just an idiot. Like, I'm sorry, he's just
Yeah.
stupid. Anyone who idolizes him, I'm sorry, but please just. I said this to Elder last episode. Boys like Ulysses, men like Joshua Graham. But I beg all of you boys who idolize Ulysses, please switch over to Graham and try your best to like find God and work on yourself, please. Because, and people say this, Ulysses is a sorry attempt at creating an antagonist version of Joshua Graham. But the mistake is that Joshua is unique and he's interesting and he's well written.
Forget about Joshua Graham. Forget about Ulysses. I say we all just respect the cowboy robot that goes yeehaw.
I don't want to know anything else about the Victor and Vance Casino, bro.
I just love his
I'm
yeehaw.
sick of hearing about it.
He wears little cowboy boots. He's so cute, man. I love him.
Someone on Reddit said English is Ulysses' third language. His first and second languages are bullshit and bear shit.
But my chat, I had people in my chat saying, wait till you get to this last DLC and you meet Ulysses. He's so cool. He's so awesome. And I was going to expect, no,
He's
okay.
not. He's a shell of a man directing all his hate onto a woman as usual.
Yeah.
SMH, bro.
I was going in expecting this to be cool. And as I went in, like, I wasn't saying really much as I was playing through it, but I was constantly thinking, like, this guy's a bit of an idiot, man. And then at the end I was like, I can't stand this guy. If you guys like this guy, explain why, because he's so flawed. He's doing the stupid scorched earth thing again, and he's blaming me for doing something I didn't do. I didn't do it, man. I didn't blow up.
I do appreciate the fact that like we think we're the main character and then you basically find out that Ulysses is, because literally he caused all the DLCs. And then on top of that, he caused you getting shot in the head. Because we find out very early on in the game in Prim that he was given the order and he turned it down and he said, no, let Six deal with this. He purposely went, you know what, fuck you. I know what this chip is about to do. Kill yourself. He realizes that when we live, the wasteland isn't going to take us, we're still here. So then he goes, fuck, what do I do now? And that's why he leads us to where he is.
Just
it's very, I'm not gonna lie, it's really interesting. Like, I don't think that the writing is the best in terms of like his character and his argument, because I don't think there is an argument. It's literally, as you said, shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
I guess it does reflect on real life again, especially powerful men who lose everything and then their first instinct is to blame it on anyone but themselves. Courier is basically someone who's tidying up his messes, kind of. Personally, I think Ulysses and the Courier are meant to be together. And I think if they just kiss, like, it would be way better ending.
Like, the one thing I'll say about him, though, he is smart enough that you can convince him.
There's part of him that I think still looks up to you and still idolizes you. Like, I think that's the whole thing. He's like kind of obsessed with the Courier because how
Mm.
does one person have such an impact on stuff? And I think I will give him the credit
Yeah.
that he's the only person who saw that in the courier. Like, no one else expected the courier to be special. He saw it from an early point that actually this person has potential to change the landscape of everything. So I will give him that, but I just think they should, like, kiss about it. Like, I don't think they should be, like, I felt like giving him a hug at the
Yeah.
end when you talk him out of it because he's just a sad, kind of pathetic guy.
Yeah.
Like that's what I got from it. I didn't think he was super cool. I think he was creative, and I think that
Yeah.
his character design is very handsome. I think he's cool and he's got a great voice. But in terms of his plan,
Yeah. But
shit. It was just
he's
shit.
not
Like what
he's
what
not
after
educated
that?
in the way as a modern person would be these days. He was tribal. Those people were educated. They had books. They had learning. Where I feel like he was learning by the tribe.
I wouldn't even give him that excuse, to be honest. I think he just got so lost in his own
Yeah.
sauce. He got so lost in his own
Yeah.
grief and his resentment, and he just
Yeah.
kept looking for something that he could never find because it was gone. And the only thing he could say is, why did the bombs go off? It's because the courier walked with the thing that set it off. Then starts the obsession, you know?
I hated him through the DLC. Listening to him, he was pompous, full of himself, cocky. He did lots of bad things. You can't talk him down. You can't convince him that he's been wrong. And I don't know what happens after that. Like, because when my playthrough, I ended up killing him. I know you can't talk him down. So what I'd like to think is what can happen is with him and the courier, they can become friends or whatever. He will learn and to learn that he'd made big mistakes. He's killed lots of people. He has lots of blood in his hands. And maybe like Joshua Graham, start doing some redemption and become a good person in the end.
Don't get school shooter about it, bro. It's not hard. Like, do what Joshua did and do some reflection and help
But
others.
Ulysses, if he all the energy he put into all those things he did, if he directed that in the right direction of doing good things, imagine what he could do. Because look at all the bad things he did very easily. I think he could do really good things.
Courier and Ulysses pair up. Imagine the things that you two protagonists could do together. You are fighting the wrong fight, brother. My final thing on this DLC is the fact that it was the first DLC I ever played by mistake. So I had no clue. It was,
Mm.
my first time playing New Vegas. I'd bought all the DLCs as well, but in my mind, I didn't realize that it was certain things that you interact with that trigger the DLC. So I got up to this part because I followed all the signs because I thought, oh, this is cool. And then it said, do you want to enter the divide? And I'm like, I guess. So then I went in and I was very underleveled. And on top of that, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I was like, who's Ulysses? What is going on? And then I ended up like dying. And I was like, well, that wasn't fun. So that was my initial thoughts on the DLC is like I got stuck in it by mistake and it wasn't fun and I didn't know what was happening because I hadn't even finished the game yet and it just put me in that. But then when I actually played it and gave it time, I did find it a bit more interesting. I don't know if it's fair to put it up against the other DLC because the other DLCs are so there's just more to them, I think.
There's hints of him in all the other DLCs. But anyone that's playing, do all the other DLCs first and then do this one last because it all ties in. Has different outcomes. Do pick it up and play it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the game is out since what, 2009, 10. I'd highly recommend. Give it another go. Try it a different way. It just makes me want to play it again. It has me hyped for it.
This game is like one of my home games. You know, when you play a game and you feel like you're coming home? That's how I describe this game. And I love you, Joshua. Mwah.
I love you, cowboy. Robot. Yeehaw! That's all I got to say about the DLCs.